This is a grey duster, which is another fly that does very well on northern waters early in the season. Does very well on our rivers when there are flies coming off. I don't know what it represents, but it works well. So these are the materials you need to tie this grey duster. This is just natural mole skin, mole fur. I've got some rabbit fur in there, which I just picked up on my travels. Some brown tyne silk, and a lightish badger cape, which I'll mention more about it in a minute. I tie them on size 14 Captain Hamilton partridge hooks, and this is just dubbing wax, which I find works very well with moleskin. Moleskin's quite hard to dub. It's quite short stiffish fibres, which is why you mix it with a little bit of rabbit's fur. But I find that dubbing wax just helps the process. So just wax the silk well. Just catch it in by the head, and then just bring it down in close touching turns along the hook shank. Normally you'd have the point of the hook hidden by the jaws of the vise, otherwise you tend to catch the thread on it, causing it to fray, or even worse, causing it to snap. So just bring the thread down so that it's between the barb and the point of the hook. Now just take this excess bit off. So just got a large hackle from the cape, and just pull these back so the tips are level with one another. And then I just take a pinch of those, not too many, just cut them off. For the tail, you want to be maybe about the length of the hook shank, maybe just a touch more, but not too long, and then just tie it with a pinch and loop just to keep them on the top. That doesn't look too bad. I don't want two different lengths there, but that'll be alright. Just take the rubbish off. Now, for the dubbing, I need some of this mole fur, so just clip it close to the skin, pull off a little bit. And a little bit of rabbit's fur to mix with it. Just take a little pinch of rabbit's fur. So I've got some rabbit's fur there and some mole's fur there, and I just pull them apart and put them together and pull them apart. Now, you can take all the fur off a mole skin and a handful of rabbit fur and stick it in your kitchen blender. Don't upset your missus. You probably need a separate blender for the purpose of and you can make a great mess of this stuff, but for the average punter who's not tying 1,000 grey dusters, then it doesn't really matter. This will do. So I've got that thoroughly mixed. I just put it in the palm of my hand and just rub it, just to break the fibres up a little bit. Particularly the rabbit fibres, these guard hairs tend to be a bit of a nuisance. Then just tease it out a little bit more. Now it helps with mole's fur if you've got a little bit of dubbing wax. You don't need much of this stuff, you just rub it on the thread. It just makes the thread that little bit more tacky, and the dubbing tends to go on better. The thing about dubbing is it should be sparse. You don't want great big fat bodied flies up here. So you just want a thin spindle of dubbing. Just spin it one way, don't spin it backwards and forwards. Just spin it one way, a bit more. Again, don't try to put on too much at once. Just bring it up on your fingers like that, and then just spin it on. That should be enough. And then just wind on the body. Now you want a nymph shape, so it should be quite sparse at the bottom. Just keep the dubbing tight, it tends to sort of almost spin off. And then bring it up the hook and building up a slightly fatter and fatter layer. So you get a sort of fatter body at this top end here, and thinner at the bottom end. So you get that sort of nymph shape. So I need one of these little hackles to match the hook. The fibres want to be about the same length, or maybe slightly more, than the gape of the hook. Small as. So that one doesn't look too bad. Just take off the rubbish at the bottom end. You don't want that on. It just absorbs water. The fly doesn't float as well. So there's the hackle more or less ready to tie in. When you tie them in, this black centre makes for a sort of big black patch in the middle there, which looks rather nice, looks like a thorax. So just rest the butt end on the stilk, bring it under the hook, and then just tie it down with the bright side facing the eye. And then just cut off that, make sure I don't cut the silk, which would be infuriating. And then I want as many turns out of this Indian cock hackle as I can get. So I just bring the hackle pliers up, and again bright side pointed towards the eye. Just close touching turns of this hackle. Any fibres that tend to go forward and are likely to be trapped, and just pull them back. Might just get one more turn out of that. That will do us. And just tie that off. And then just take off the tip. Pull the fibres back and just tie in a nice small head. An awkward fibre there. Just take that off. And any protruding guard hairs, you don't want it with a short back and sides, but then again you don't want masses of fur all over the place, otherwise it looks very suspicious. So all that's required now is to whip finish. Two, three will do, otherwise you end up with a head which is far too big. And just cut that off. And then you just need a little dab of varnish on there. Light varnish, so it soaks in. You don't want a great gob of the stuff on there. So it just soaks into the head. As I say, just a little bit underneath. Just a little bit in the eye there, just clean that out. I can always check it when I'm on the roof bank. So there's a little raggy grey duster. I like it. It fishes well for me, and I've caught a lot of trout on those. If you look at it from the front, you can see that dark patch in the centre of the hackle, which just makes it a little more realistic looking as far as a trout's concerned anyway.